Hi guys, Hayden Simmons here from the Portrait Guru, and in today's video I'm going to share 7 beginner drawing mistakes that a lot of beginners commit. I'll share what these beginner mistakes are, how you can solve each one, and also tips throughout that you can utilize to really improve your drawing skill. So without further delay, let's get into the video. So the first beginner drawing mistake is drawing sketchy lines. A lot of beginners do this when they're first introduced to drawing. They draw really hairy lines and they're not confident with their stroke, and they're not using their entire arm to produce their stroke. So if you really want to improve your line quality, your drawing skill, and just to improve your overall artistic abilities, you really need to focus on drawing from your whole arm and not producing these sketchy or hairy lines. And to improve this skill, you need to ghost your lines or to practice your line control. So I've got a video in the top right corner there that'll help you with your line control and some key drawing exercises that you can utilize to improve your line control. But make sure you're using your entire arm to draw with. Make sure you're ghosting the line. So if the paper's here, you've got your pen and it's only 0.5 to 1 centimeter away from that drawing paper, you motion that line 3 or 4 times, and then on the 5th stroke, you actually commit to that line. Really important to improve your overall line control and to stop doing those sketchy lines, and it will improve your drawing so much. So that's the first tip. Mistake number 2 is proportional errors. So I see a lot of beginners making these sort of errors. So if we're referring to a portrait, for example, the eyes would be so far down, the nose would be too far up, and it would just make the whole face look unproportional. It really is a classic beginner drawing mistake. But if you want to improve your accuracy and proportions, you really need to ask questions whilst you're drawing. So if you're drawing a building, for example, how big is the door in relation to the size or the height of that building? Is it only 2 times? Is it only 1? How many doors can you fit in to the height of that building? Then you take the door height and then you measure how far or how many doors are within the width of that building. But this doesn't only apply to buildings, it can apply to anything. So if you're drawing a portrait, how many eyes are in between each eye? How big is the jaw in relation to the size or the height of the face? If you're drawing a car, how wide is that car in relation to its height? Keep asking yourself questions throughout, and by asking questions throughout, it will improve your overall accuracy and proportions. I really recommend you committing and you practicing observational drawings, so you can select simple objects around the home like a mug or your phone or your computer mouse and draw or try and draw exactly what you see, and ask questions throughout like I was just saying. The third classic beginner drawing mistake is a lack of perspective knowledge. And I put my hands up for this one, as I really did avoid drawing anything with perspective. I definitely avoided learning about perspective, and it really hindered my drawing growth. But as soon as I got familiar and I taught myself and I learned from blogs, YouTube to books about perspective, it has radically improved my overall drawing skill. But when someone watches or when someone sees your artwork and the perspective is a bit off, say if you're drawing a landscape and that perspective is just a bit wrong, then it can just seem like the whole drawing suffers as a result. So to get over this and to improve your perspective is by learning 1 point, 2 point and 3 point perspective, and also how to draw a box in perspective. I've got a link in the top right corner, and one of these drawing exercises is drawing a box in perspective, which I really recommend you checking out. But if you can learn how to draw a box in perspective and also perspective in general, it will radically improve your overall drawing skill. You'll be able to draw portraits better. You'll be able to draw things like cars, landscapes, anything. If you can master or radically improve your perspective knowledge. So the next classic beginner drawing mistake that I often see is inconsistency with the drawing habit. So I actually have a video in the top right corner there to help you build a strong and consistent drawing habit. But say if you only draw once or twice a month, or even less than this, once a year or once every 6 months, whenever you go back to that drawing paper, you're going to be as rusty as ever. You can't build the momentum and you can't improve your drawing skill if you draw so infrequently. So to guarantee strong improvements in your drawings, you've got to build on your drawing habit. So here's 3 tips to help you build a strong and consistent drawing habit. So make drawing easy by putting your sketchbook or paper next to where you work, for example. Invest in a portable sketchbook. This could be an A6 or A5 sketchbook that you put in your bag, your handbag, to your pockets. And then lastly, blocking out time in your calendar for drawing time. Beginner mistake number 5 is skipping on the foundations. When I see someone who is beginner, who is drawing, and they go straight away into the details, if they're drawing a portrait, for example, they would just start it off by drawing the eyes really detailed, and they won't consider the overall face. Instead, you really need to focus on the foundations. What is the structure of the face? How does it line up? What is the skull doing underneath that face? Too many beginners start off their drawings by really focusing on those little details. I really recommend you practicing, and to improve the foundations of your drawing is to focus on basic shapes. So circles, triangles, squares, for example. And after you've practiced this, you can go on to basic forms, taking those shapes but making them more 3D. So squares, cylinders, triangles, boxes in perspective. This will help you construct the subjects that you're drawing. So instead of just going really detailed with that eye, you can step back, you can draw a circle for the cranium, you can draw a rectangle for the jaw, and then you can start placing those marks on the paper without going into the details too soon. By practicing basic forms and basic shapes, you'll be able to break down the most complex subjects when you're drawing into these foundational principles, and then build on the foundations to start properly rendering and shading anything that you want. So if you want to draw better cars, to buildings, to landscapes, to animals, to even portraits, it always starts with the foundations of basic forms and basic shapes, and then transferring these basic forms and shapes into the more detailed drawings. So building up from the foundations and then going into the details and then taking that into the rendering. Beginner mistake number 6 is not drawing master studies. So if you're unfamiliar with what master studies are is selecting some of your favourite artists and basically studying or copying what they produced, or go into the minds of each of these artists and see why they produced the drawings or the paintings that they created. I can go into their minds and I can take that information and the things that I studied from those master studies and take it through into my own art. So to improve your overall drawing skill, I really recommend you selecting a few of your artists that you love and just studying what they did to produce the drawings that they created. So for example, I would study Vincent van Gogh's expressive drawings and really study his mark making. As another example, David Hockney's colours. So what did he use as his colour palettes to produce his stunning artworks? Or I would select George Bellows' dramatic and expressive paintings and see how I can capture or study the expressiveness from his paintings and take it through to my artworks. So I do really recommend master studies to improve your overall artistic skill, and make sure you take through what you learnt from these master studies into your own drawings and paintings and creations. It's important not just to copy, but to really study what they produced. So beginner drawing mistake number 7 is working too small. I often see this when beginners are drawing. They would draw on a very small piece of paper, really cram in all the details into this one little space. I often see this at live drawing classes when these figures are just in this sort of space, but you can create so much more by drawing on a bigger paper, stepping out of that comfort zone and really capturing what you're drawing on a bigger surface. But if you're used to drawing, say in an A5 sketchbook, see what an A4 sketchbook feels like. Go to an A3 sketchbook. When you're next at a live drawing class, don't just stick to that small dimension, but really magnify it and try and draw bigger. By selecting bigger sketchbooks and paper, you'll be able to be more expressive with your arm. You'll be able to be more expressive with your drawings. It'll really step you out of your comfort zone and really make for more dramatic drawings. So I really hope you gained a lot from this video. Do give this video a like, subscribe to the Portrait Guru for even more content in the future, and do give me a comment below with your findings, any questions that you have, or share how you got on. I do recommend you checking out these beginner drawing exercises to improve your drawing skill. See you on the next video.